Before we get started, there are some trigger warnings. I am going to directly say them, so if that bothers you, then skip ahead. There's trigger warnings for stalking and for suicide in this one, and murder. Howdy, this is Lily, and this is my August recap. I did not read nearly as much as I did in July, but I made a small dent in my to be read pile. Also, I probably will spoil all of these, so I'll leave a list below for you to make your own choice if you want to continue. So here we go. First we have It's Kind of a Funny Story by Ned Vizzini. I gave this 3 out of 5 stars. This is about this kid named Craig who is having suicidal thoughts and checks himself into a psychiatric hospital. He thinks it's going to be a quick therapy session type thing, but accidentally gets admitted for 5 days. I kind of like it and I kind of don't at the same time. I was entertained, but reading 15-year-old boy thoughts is so gross, and he just seems really judgmental of his own mental struggles, which is fairly common, but I still don't want to read that. This ends with him basically being all better at the end of the 5 days. I don't love the implication that it's that easy to recover from deep depression. In this, Craig thinks of killing himself by jumping off the Brooklyn Bridge. I guess the author of the book actually killed himself by jumping off of a building 8 years after he wrote this, which I'm glad I found out after reading this because that's kind of eerie. I kind of recommend this. I don't recommend running out to buy a copy, but if a friend offers to lend it to you or you get it from the library, then sure, it's entertaining enough to read through. Second is Dash and Lily's Book of Dares by Rachel Kahn and David Levithan. I gave this one 3 out of 5 stars as well. This is about how Lily left a notebook inside a bookstore for someone to find who ends up being Dash, and they send it back and forth between each other for a while, and they send it back and forth while giving each other tasks or dares to complete. It's extremely cheesy and messy. There are many plot holes, like Dash knowing that Santa is Lily's uncle before getting the notebook back, where she tells him. Also later in the book, Dash calls Macy's looking for Santa, where the person who answers calls him a stalker, and then he goes into the Strand and asks an employee where to find Mark, and the employee responds with, "Oh, so you're the stalker," when that's not who he was talking to before. It's just really messy. They also keep jumping back and forth between Dash and Lily, which I like, but they should stay on the same day as each other. Sometimes it'll slip with a couple days gap and it gets confusing. I also didn't get any amusement out of all the dead animal jokes. However, I was amused by Dash before finding out what his name was, where his face is Eminem and he's singing "My Name Is" and turning the notebook to different pages with different names on it. If you've watched the Netflix series, it's extremely different than the book. I personally like the book a lot more, as I did with the other Rachel and David film adaptations. Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist and Naomi and Eli's No Kiss List were butchered, and now this was too. Overall, I'd softly recommend this as a lighthearted holiday read, as long as you don't take it too seriously. Next, I read The 12 Days of Dash and Lily by Rachel Kahn and David Levithan. Gave this one 2.5 out of 5. This is the second book of the series. This takes place the Christmas after the one in the first book. They've been in a relationship for a year now, but they've drifted apart, and the Christmas season brings them closer together. The antics in this one are absolutely ridiculous. There's a tree lighting ceremony, and they all light each other's candles and then light a candle on the tree, which surprisingly doesn't start a fire. I forget what actually starts it, but eventually there is a fire and Dash tackles it to put it out. Later, Lily invites a bunch of librarians to ice skate with Dash as a special surprise for him. I love to read, but that doesn't mean I want to ice skate with a bunch of librarians. That's just an odd connection to make. But someone throws glitter all over the ice rink and everyone crashes, and someone's skate slashes Dash's face open and he wears an eye patch afterwards. It's a lot and it's not necessarily good, but it's still a fun, lighthearted read for the holidays. So in that sense, I do kind of recommend it. Next, I read Forever in Blue, The Fourth Summer of the Sisterhood by Anne Brashers. Not sure how to say that. I gave that one 2 out of 5. This one is part of the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants series. I loved the first one when it came out, and I was much younger than I am now, but now this series makes me want to rip my eyes out. I'm convinced that they're only such good friends because they're so shitty to everyone else in their lives. The point of the series is 4 friends who all are spread apart doing their own things, but they they have a magical pair of pants that happens to fit all of them, even though they're all much different sizes, and they send the pants to each other to stay connected. In this installment, one of them cheats on her boyfriend to kiss a married man who has a child, which is disgusting on so many levels. Another takes her boyfriend's virginity and dumps him right after. The third one has the love of her life come across the world to see her, and she goes and gives her virginity to her classmate instead. The last one doesn't really do anything wrong. She just kind of stumbles into a play on accident, which upsets her bitchy new fake friend, but that's not really her fault. I have officially dubbed this series The Sisterhood of the Terrible Girlfriends, and I do not recommend it. However, I will still read the last one, and I will go see the new movie if the rumors are true, and they really do make a third one. Next is Mind the Gap, a Dash and Lily story by Rachel Kahn and David Lithian. This is the third and last one of the series. I honestly forgot that I even read this because I hated it so much. This takes all of the charm away from the series. Lily is so obsessed with her social media life, and I just can't stand reading about social media. I absolutely hate it. But even without that element, it's still boring. Everything is scattered and it feels forced. I'm not even going to bother telling you the plot, and I do not recommend it. Next is You by Caroline Kepnes. Not sure how to say that. I gave this one 1.5 out of 5. I've been getting tired of all the YA books in my to-be-read pile, so I decided to take a break and thought this would be a good thriller to excite my love for books again, but oh my god, this is horrible. I had a mild knowledge of the show before this. I knew he was going to be a stalker, but I thought it was going to be like in a sweet way to an extent in the beginning and then crossing some boundaries, like looking at all of her pictures on social media and reading all of the books she says she likes online or something, and then taking it too far and following her to see what she's doing at all times. But no, this is so extremely sexual. He can't have a normal conversation with her without his thoughts thinking about how she has daddy issues and how he's going to fuck her later. It's just gross. I am impressed by his ability to have so many intense thoughts and keep them relatively contained, though, in the beginning at least. The best part of the book is him crying over her while watching Pitch Perfect. I was hoping the next book in the series would be a little less sexual and better now that he had killed the girl, but I was wrong. I'm only continuing this series because I'm stupid and bought the second one before reading the first. I'm sure you can already tell by my review, but I do not recommend this. Next, I read Graffiti by Savannah Brown. I gave this one 4 out of 5. I'm more of a fan of things that are poetic than direct poetry itself, but I managed to enjoy this collection of poems. Don't really have much else to say on this except for I would definitely recommend this. Next, I read Sweet Dark by Savannah Brown. I gave this one 2.5 out of 5. Sweet Dark is Savannah's second collection of poetry. Unfortunately, I did not really enjoy this one. About 70% of it felt like it was in a different language. It's strange because I actually knew all of the words she was using. The order they were put in just was not computing in my brain for some reason. Sometimes I get that feeling when I watch her YouTube videos as well. Animal warning to those who need it. I always feel bad putting the bad animal thing in my warning since I'm trying to save you from the discomfort, so let's just say that 2 of these poems aren't very vegan and I don't recommend this collection. Next, I read Hidden Bodies by Caroline Kepnes. I gave this one 0.5 out of 5. The sequel to You. After reading You and him killing the girl at the end, I thought this one would be more bearable. He'd be single and the sexual thoughts would go away and I'd actually enjoy this. I was very, very wrong. He fucks a million different women in this and thinks about how they're nothing except for the one that he suddenly loves now. Every time he thought about a blowjob, I'd skip down and there'd just be another mention of it. It's disgusting and tasteless, and I need to not buy book series just because there's a Netflix series with the guy from Gossip Girl in it. I still haven't watched the actual series, but I'm hoping it's better than this garbage, and I like to picture it as a sequel to Gossip Girl. Dan Humphrey was only Gossip Girl as a warm-up to becoming Joe. As for the book, I definitely do not recommend. It's as if it were written by a little boy going through puberty, and it's so painful to get through. Next is Demon Slayer, Volume 6. I gave this one 4.5 out of 5 stars. This volume has the demon sister prove that she won't hurt humans to the group of the top demon slayers. Then they become part of the group and start their training for that. This one ends with someone being promised more blood if they kill the brother. It was great as usual and funny. I definitely recommend this. Next is Demon Slayer Volume 7. I gave this one 5 out of 5. This is the train one. The anime got a movie for this one, and I love it. They're all on a dream train. The demon who takes over the train is the one who was told to kill the main guy in the last volume. I highly recommend checking it out. Next is Demon Slayer Volume 8. I gave this one 4 out of 5. This volume just covers the aftermath from the train. I definitely recommend all of this series. I don't feel like I need to say that every time anymore. Next is Demon Slayer Volume 9. I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. It's about 2 weeks between me reading this and Volume 8, so I was pretty confused. I don't know how we ended up in the entertainment district after the train stuff, but I still enjoyed this. Next is Demon Slayer Volume 10. I gave this one 3 out of 5. This one feels so random as well. All I have to say is that Nezuko has exposed cleavage now. I don't know how I feel about that. Next is Demon Slayer Volume 11. I gave this one 3.5 out of 5. The books are finally starting to feel connected again, so that's nice. This one has a demon with a rubbery neck, and I couldn't help but laugh whenever it was mentioned or pictured. It was amusing. And lastly is Demon Slayer Volume 12. I gave this one 3.5 out of 5 as well. After the fight in the previous issue, Tanjiro was in a coma for about 2 months, and that's all that I retained from this, other than some characters showing a lot more boob now. And I'm hoping the series doesn't suddenly get super sexual on me, but we shall see.